that leg is so.
And actually, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because I know me.
You know, so that's our life's mission. That's the McKinn's mission.
You don't have to understand my boundaries to respect them.
You know, I'm the president, co-founder of McKinn, a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorders.
How do you go about fixing the damage in the trust between the family after you get out?
Like, okay, I gotta work on that. Like,
Celebrating my 6 months. Didn't have cake.
Yeah.
gosh, you showed up.
I played golf yesterday. Me and John played golf. John did. So we playing golf. And so the leg might swell a little bit. All right. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Hey, men, to have a seat so I can introduce you. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, my name is Marshall. I'm a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorder, which means I haven't found it necessary to use today. I haven't found it necessary to use in years, you know. I'm here because this is a mission for me. You know, this is a purpose for me, to give back what was so freely given to me, you know. Man, I thank God for my path on a daily basis. On a daily basis, man. I get to see things. Man. I had to take a brother to social services today, right over here. I didn't even know where social services was. I had to take a person over there today. And man, I just saw, for me anyway, I just saw how this thing is destroying people's lives, you know? Just saw how this thing is turning people's lives upside down, you know? And what gets me is that everybody's so casual about it. Everybody's so casual about it. Like this is what's supposed to happen, you know what I mean? Like we ain't supposed to be successful, you know? We ain't supposed to be enjoying the fruits of our labor. You know? Now, I know for me, I have seen and witnessed a lot in life, you know? And I constantly see and witness a lot of things in life, you know? And for me, I know and understand where I came from. That's why I'm here today, my purpose, my passion. When I see individuals that get out, get a job, get a paycheck, and they about to poop on themselves because they don't know what to do. That was me at one time. Never was a good manager of money when I was using. Never was a good money manager. My word today, grab this now, grab this. I like history. Why do we need to know the history of ourselves? For us in here, just know the history of your using, the history of your addiction. The reason we need to know history so that we can plan for our future. That's why we need to know. Plan for our future. Me, I was planning for my future and I didn't even know anything about recovery. Why I didn't come back to jail, didn't go back to jail, because I was scared. I was smart enough to be scared. I can still remember coming home, getting a job, and one of my partners tell me, said, man, look, man, Philip Mars having a social. Y'all know what social was then. They cooking fish, burgers, and all that. Everybody gambling and all that kind of stuff like that. Everybody, it's party time. It's fun time, you know. And I already knew. I knew this from looking at my record. Man, if I ever got caught in a car or in a house with some drugs, I'm automatically guilty based on my history. I'm automatically guilty. And some of y'all previous crime, if you get caught in certain places, you may be innocent. But because of your history, you're automatically guilty. So my thinking was, and this is just street knowledge. This is common sense knowledge. Man, if you get caught with somebody riding in the car and they got drugs in the car, you going to jail. You probably going to do more time than they will. You know? Those were my thinking. I was paranoid about that. And I was scared. And that kept me from doing it. Ain't nothing wrong with being scared. Ain't nothing wrong with being a little paranoid. Some of this paranoia is healthy. So for me, I became scared. I go to the social with this dude, and I'm in there. I see a whole bunch of people in there that I know. None of them had been to jail like I had. And man, I was like, okay, they had food cooking, you know. They was gambling, everybody was shooting dice and all of that. I went upstairs, and I peeked my head in the room. Man, I saw more drugs on the table than I had ever seen before. And I mean, I got petrified. I was like, man, I got to get the fuck out here. Get the camera right. I got to get out here, you know, because I'm thinking, and I've heard this before, man, if the police raid this joint, they'll come in and lock everybody up, man. Everybody would eventually get out on bond except for Marshall. Why? I had 50 years with 25 suspended for distribution of heroin, you know. I had 25 years over my head. And I don't know how long that was for. It could have been for life. You know, I don't even know. I didn't even research it. But anyway, that was enough. When I was doing time, I was like, man, they done gave me a life sentence. Because I saw people that had 20 years in 1970, and in 1990, they were still doing the 20 years, just like him. Just like him. Still doing the time, man, that you got 10 years ago. You know, because you refuse to change. You know what I mean? So think about your future, man. Think about your future. That'll help you become a good decision maker. You know? If you're going to go back out there with some girl that you don't even have a good relationship with, that's using, you know what I'm saying? It's like, man, look, girl, I think I'm going to go to McShin. Good decision. Good decision, you know? Go to McShin. Go somewhere where you can get your help. That's prevalent now, man. That's prevalent, you know, for people to get some help. Ask for some help, you know. Go to a program, whatever it is you got to do, you know. Man, when I think about, you know, my life today, I think about the decisions that I have to make today, you know. Man, early on, and it's still, I got a truck that's a 4-seater. I had a 2-seater truck for a long time, just up until last year, because I ain't riding with a whole lot of people, you know. I ain't letting a whole lot of people ride with me, because that was my thinking early on. I can't ask to frisk you if you get in my car. You get in my car and you might be dirty, you know. And then we happen to get stopped by the police, you know. Bam, there we go. We going back to jail, you know. Now, what I really wanted to talk about, that was just a word that I've been carrying around about, planning for your future, man. That's why you need to know your history. Oh, hey, wait, what Moses said. There are 1 million stores in the naked city of Richmond, Virginia. Yours is one of them. You know it better than anybody else. Keep your story with you. Keep it right up here. Don't let it get back here somewhere. Keep your story with you, you know, at all times, man, you know. So you can have something to go on, something to lean on, you know, something to prop you up, man, you know. Because this thing ain't peaches and cream. This thing ain't easy. If it was, everybody would be doing it, man. I'm over there at social services, man. I see the drug court over there today, right? I don't know. I'm counting the number of people I come in there to see with the witch comb on their ankle. You know? It's like this thing is still active, man. It's still active. Because a whole lot of us don't know what to do, you know? And then when we look at ourselves, man, we done did this, man, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, you know? And we still doing it, man, you know? But, you know, you have to understand, it's another way. It's another way. When I'm out here doing what I'm doing, I tell myself on a daily basis, man, everybody don't think like I think. You don't have to think like I think, but I want you thinking. I want you to putting a thought together. You know what I'm saying? Have some kind of thoughts in your head about what I'm supposed to be. We grown-ass men and women. We ain't supposed to be, when I ask you a question, the answer ain't supposed to be, I don't know. Man, that's some 10-year-old shit. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to know. A grown-ass individual is supposed to know what you're doing and why you did it. You know? But anyway, again, you know your history, man. And know your history to the point, man, where your history benefits you. You know? And keep that thing going, man. You know? Man, I mentioned McShin. And whenever I come here and I don't mention McShin, somebody smack me side the head. You know what I mean? Because that's what I want to do. That's just what I'm advocating for. This is who I've hitched my wagon to, you know? And this is where, man, I see people doing some things, man, doing some things, you know? And I love that. I see people getting second chances and third chances at McShin. When I came here, Mandie tells me, that's our speaker for the night. Mandie tells me, hey, Marsha, I need you to go back to Pamarket. Need you to go out Hanover. You know what I mean? And, man, that was a spiritual conversation for us. You know what I mean? A spiritual conversation. Because I go where I'm needed, man. I go where I'm needed, you know. But anyway, my name is Marsha. I'm a person in long-term recovery. John beat me in golf yesterday. Y'all know I had my knees replaced. I got back on the golf course. He called it before it happened. He said, I probably can beat him now. He beat the shit out of me yesterday. But that's my guy. We still love each other.
It was close, man.
Yeah,
it was close.
We still love each other.
Yeah, Marshall wouldn't play for money, though.
No.
Well, I had your sponsor on the hook.
Yeah. Because look, they'll take advantage of you.
In a minute. That's how golf rolls. Thank you, Marshall.
All right.
You know, I got a call, what was it, yesterday? Pam texted me, said, you know, we can't go to East. They have a little, I don't know, shortage of COs. Y'all want to do West? I texted her immediately. Hell yeah, we'll go back to West, man. Was that a good call? Yes. By applause, was it good? There you go. I'm testing Art's mic system too. I said, why don't we have a boom mic pick up the sound? He said, well, they pick them up off of this, so I'll be able to tell now that we had an early applaud. I won't have to watch the whole thing. You know, I was listening to Marshall talk, and he mentioned manageability. You know, manageability was always one of my problems, too. I was reflecting, Marshall. I remember back before I got in recovery, I always had a problem with money. I didn't have a problem getting it or making it or spending it. It was managing it with a problem coming. I don't know if y'all can relate to that or not. I mean, back in the 70s, I was a painter. I'd paint a house, get the money. I'd be broke in 2 days. I don't know what it was about me and money, but 48 hours was about all I could handle. And I remember one time, it was, I don't know, 1978 maybe. I just wallpapered the Hyatt Hotel. The guy writes me a check on the Bank of Atlanta. This is on a Friday, right? $1,500. That's the first time I had that kind of money. That's probably like $5,000 in today's money. 9 a.m., 8:30 a.m. the next morning, the bank in Atlanta opened at 8:30 on a Saturday morning. I'm at the bank door. And this is kind of funny. And the lady calls the guy. He's still in Richmond. He's asleep in the motel room. And he said, you got a guy down here cashing? Yeah, that's him, you know. But my mother gave me gas money to go down there and cash his check. And right across from the bank was Ponce de Leon. It was a strip club, a motel, opened at 24/7, right? So me and my buddy, we just, you could drink liquor at 18. I think I was only 19 at the time. We went in there, and I mean, 2 hours later, we're like broke. You know, I didn't even have my mother's gas money. And I'm in Atlanta, broke by noontime on a Saturday morning. And that was a pattern of mine. But there's a good part to this. You know, I got clean in 1982. Came back to Richmond out of the Marine Corps in 1983. Started my painting business back. I think around 1985 or 86, when they brought the cell phones to Richmond, I got a cell phone before they had the towers built, but I've had that same number and company since then. That was bought and sold once, but I never changed nothing. I've been paying that phone bill since the mid-'80s. To me, that's manageability. I ain't never been threatened to get cut off. And that was a pattern, paying your bills for this many years. I'm talking decades now. I don't have a ton of money, but I got a long history of being manageable. And me and Marshall, this is part of our recovery process, managing our time. You know, Tuesday night is our time to come up in here. That golf is extra. You know, that's just bonus time. So manageability has a lot of moving parts to it. And they told me in rehab, I remember this lecture we had in rehab back in 1982. The guy giving the lecture said something like this. Just think, if you could live the life you always dreamed of living, have the beautiful relationship, in my case it was going to be a woman, make enough money, pay all your bills, and save some money for retirement, and live fairly comfortable, be able to travel, buy a car, have a vacation, have children. How many would y'all do that? And you know, everybody puts their hand up. And they said, all you got to do is this. Don't use nothing, and at least go to one meeting a week. Can you do that? And I said, yeah, I can do that. That's a good trade to me because, you know, we night every night anyways, all night long, right? So how hard can it be to go to a meeting? Well, I took them up on that. And here I am 41 years later almost telling you it's as simple as that. It really is. Now, a lot happens in between. You learn to get a sponsor, work steps, get involved in service work, like me, Marshall, Art, Mandie. This is service work for us, you know. This is a good hit. So I don't think we suffer, you know. I see nobody in recovery suffering like I see people in active addiction suffer. I just don't see it. So before I bring up our speaker, I just want to remind you, drug use, doing things the way we like to do things, is a shit sandwich. Recovery is a Twinkie. It's as simple as that. You know what I mean? Where you been and what you done, shit sandwich. Where we hope you're going, follow, do what we do, it's going to be a Twinkie. It ain't nothing in between for us. So quit trying to get that shit covered Twinkie. They just don't exist, all right? You won't like it. Go for the recovery. That's the one you want. Mandie's going to come up here and share her experience, strength, and hope. But I'm telling you what, I know Mandie. She works for us. I know her history. I know her story. I've heard her talk. I'm going to tell you this, but you're going to think I'm crazy. I never get tired of listening to her. It's like Marshall. I don't get tired of hearing them talk. When somebody finds a recovery pathway, when somebody finds a purpose, Mandie has a purpose, how can you argue with listening to somebody's got purpose? Kind of like your favorite preacher. If you go to church on Sunday, you like the preacher, you know, man's got purpose. How can you object to that? Hell, I like Snoop Dogg. Every chance I get to watch him, I watch him. The man's got purpose, you know. I like listening to people with purpose. So let's give a warm Jail West to Mandie.
Hey everyone, how are you? Yeah. I think one of them said, this is our home. I can tell you this did used to be my home. My name is Mandie, and I'm a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorder, which for me means I haven't found it necessary to use drugs or alcohol in over 4 years, since April 4th, 2019. Additionally, I'm in recovery from some substantial mental health issues, which for me means I haven't found it necessary to self-harm or visit a psych ward as a patient in over 5 years. Marshall was talking about history, and history is my jam. That's actually what my degree is in. And I said to someone today, a young lady who really was, just coming off a relapse, and she said, I didn't even have clothes. I don't even have socks. And I said, I want you to remember this. I want you to remember this moment, because a year or two from now, when you got socks and a job and a car and a license, your story is going to be so powerful. You're going to have a testimony, right? And John's right. I speak with purpose. It's not just purpose. For me, this is a mission. I'm the judicial programs coordinator at McShin, and my mission is to work with inmates who are trying to find recovery. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I came to realize that was my mission. See, I got to give you all a little bit of the mess so you understand the message, okay? I remember growing up, and like the feeling, the memory that surrounds my childhood is isolation. I remember some of my first memories from like kindergarten, preschool, were feeling different, an outsider, the black sheep. Anybody relate to that? Feeling different? Yeah. It's funny the little things that we hang on to. I remember in kindergarten, it was springtime, and we had to color a sheep. And I was like, I live in the country. Sheep are white or black or brown or gray. And I was like, those are the least favorite colors in the whole crayon box. So I made me a rainbow sheep. I don't know if y'all can tell, but I'm a colorful kind of person. I made me a rainbow sheep, and the other kids laughed at me. They said sheep aren't rainbows. But I said, I want sheep to be rainbows. And I remember just feeling crushed that I got laughed at for that. I got beat up by the older boys in the neighborhood. They used to throw rocks at me. They used to touch me in ways that made me feel uncomfortable. And, honestly, I'd take any of that any day over what they did to me in 5th grade, where they had Ignore Amanda Day every Monday for a whole month. And Ignore Amanda Day, I had to sit by myself at lunchtime, and they would laugh and point at me and make fun of me. And when they walked by to go up, get their milk, they'd pull my hair and hit me. Different and isolated and alone. It's interesting, though, because honestly, if you had looked at my family, you would never know the trajectory that my life was going to take. I had perfect parents. They were not divorced, right? We lived in a perfect house. We had perfect vacations, perfect Christmases, perfect teeth, braces, but perfect teeth. We did have an ugly dog. I'm not even going to lie. But we were perfect. But there I was, 10 years old. Already bipolar, didn't know it, cutting on myself, sitting in the corner in tears, listening to The Cure. I want you to remember that image of that little girl, because she's going to come up later. Now, I had a couple things going for me. I had a great family. I was that student. You know Hermione Granger and Harry Potter? Ooh, 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 me. That was me, and I know y'all hated me. You made it obvious. It's okay, right? I had theater, because the first time I ever stepped on stage, I was 7 years old, and it was like those floodlights hit me, and I was like, I've arrived. I know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. Just hand me my Oscar now. And I had church. I was raised in the church. Having said that, please don't think I'm one of those judgmental people, okay? I don't care what you believe. Just believe in something. Believe in yourself. Start there. But I was raised in the church, so much so that they sent me to Israel to study. That's where I turned Sweet 16 in Jerusalem. Do y'all know what the drinking age is in Jerusalem? If you can see over the bar, you can drink. I don't know what little people do, but I know I saw over the bar. I remember my first party in high school where people were drinking. I don't know how I got invited. but I polished off a bottle of like 4 roses. I'm Irish and German, y'all. If there's one thing genetically I'm built to do is drink. And for the first time ever, I saw something in everybody's eyes. Somebody looked at me and said, "Damn, girl, you can drink." Respect. I saw respect in their eyes because I could put away more alcohol and drink them under the table. And I thought, so that's how you get people to like you. That was a weekend thing once in a while, right? I graduated high school with, I think they would call it a 3.8, but I was in AP honors classes, so it was actually more like a 4.8. I graduated not top 10 of my class, not top 10%, I mean top 10 of my class. I got accepted to Virginia Tech after auditioning for the theater department to major in theater there. Remember, again, I'm ready for that Oscar, y'all. My future was so bright, you had to put on some shades to watch me. I just knew I was going places. I knew it. And then 2 weeks into, I started college as a sophomore. So 2 weeks into my freshman year, my first semester at college, I dislocated my shoulder. And they put me on Percocet. 2 weeks later, I dislocated my shoulder again, and in so doing, popped every ligament off the bone. They refilled my prescription to get me through until I had surgery over Christmas break in December. That's 3 months on Percocet. And wouldn't you know, after surgery, they kept me on Percocet. They upped my dosage. And I didn't come off till June. I spent 9 months on Percocet. And when I looked around at my life, when I came off Percocet, a lot of my friends were really annoyed with me. Did y'all know that prescription drugs and alcohol are not a good mix? A lot of my friends were mad at me. The dean of the theater department called me into his office and politely requested that I switch majors, hence the history degree. My grades had tanked. And with all of that, away went my faith. It felt like I had lost everything, and I was isolated all over again. I was mad at God. You brought me this far and dropped me? All this good stuff, and now this? But into a vacuum, something must come. And into that vacuum, I found my next 3 best friends. Alcohol, marijuana, and LSD. There's a wonderful picture of me graduating from Virginia Tech, looking in my folder on the stage to make sure my diploma was in there. My GPA was so low, one of my classes didn't know they were going to pass me, and my graduation hinged on that. I came home from tech. I did have a diploma with like a 2.2. And I was lost, isolated again. And one night I went out with friends. Still remember her name, Anna Tulu. And she said, "Now be careful. There's this guy who's gonna come hang out with us tonight. His name is Ted. He's bad news, watch out." Okay, I didn't think nothing of it. And we're all drinking, we're all hanging out, and the door to the bar opened, and in walked this guy in a leather jacket, and we locked eyes, and it was like that scene from Wayne's World, Dreamweaver. Everything got slow motion and sparkly, like you could feel the heat. And he walked in a beeline towards me, and I'm staring at him the whole time, and he's staring at me. He climbs over the table to sit next to me, and he says, "Hi, my name's Ted." 3 weeks later, we moved in together. And that night, I tried heroin for the first time. He had said he had some time clean, but a friend of ours came over and she brought some party favors. Now, y'all, I went to DARE program. Anybody here do the DARE program? Quick aside, if you want to know the definition of irony, I wrote a paper for a competition in the DARE program, Why I Will Never Use Drugs, in order to win a $50 savings bond, which 12 years later I cashed in to go buy crack with. That's irony. But I went to the DARE program, and this one thing sat with me. If you try heroin, you'll OD, you'll die, you'll become a junkie if you don't. Immediately after trying heroin, you will be homeless under a bridge. And I was scared. And Ted said, it's just like morphine, like Percocet. Have you ever had Percocet? And I was like, Percocet? Why, yes, I have. That's my favorite flavor. I said, but I don't know about needles. He said, that's okay. You ain't gotta do all that. And I did my first line. And it was the most amazing feeling in the world. It was like a light switch went off in my head when Dorothy landed in Oz and everything went from black and white to color. That's where I was. This must be when all those people talk about happy. This must be what they're talking about. I like this. Best feeling. Followed immediately by the worst feeling ever because I threw up for the next 12 hours. I threw up stuff I had eaten 2 weeks prior. And I woke up the next morning with, some of y'all know, the heroin hangover. Yeah, I woke up with that. And I was like, I'm never doing that again. Whoa. But next Friday rolled around, and we were bored. And I had just gotten paid. Ted won't working, of course. And Saturday we were bored and still had some money left over. And the next week, there was still a weekend. And Sunday, I don't have to go back to work till tomorrow. The week after that, Mondays suck. You got to do something to cheer Monday up, right? That's a rough day at work for me. Rough day at home for him. And then the week after that, the weekend really starts on Thursday. And the week after that, hey, hump day. And then the week after that, damn, Tuesdays are boring. There ain't nothing going on Tuesdays. Ain't even nothing good on TV. I didn't become addicted overnight, but it took about 6 weeks, maybe, for me to have a daily heroin habit. A few weeks after that, one of our friends said, you're really wasting it by snorting it, right? Like if you want your bang for your buck. And I tied off for the first time. About 3 months later, I was in my dealer's apartment, trap house. And I was waiting on my order, like the drive-through. And there was this little dude sitting on the couch, and he was smoking this rock out of a little glass pipe. And I was still so sheltered. Oh my God, what's that? Ted's trying to yank me back by the scruff of my neck. He's like, this is crack, baby. You want to try some? I was like, I don't know. He goes, first time's free. He literally said that, y'all. Like, that's like every DARE comic book ever. First time's free. I know why. After that weekend and $600, the first time was free because he had his best customer by Monday. Ted and I broke up. Shocker. We did stay friends. He's an important part of my story to this day. About 6 months later, I was at work. They asked me to train a new guy. I was working at Cracker Barrel. Yeah, I wore pigtails. Hi, y'all. And we met in January, Wes and I, while I was training him. We had our first date in February. We got engaged in March and we're married by tax day in April. I don't know, but this is a pattern in my life. 1 year later, Wesley, my oldest son, came along. He was born addicted to heroin. Neonatal abstinence syndrome is the official term. I had gone to rehab to try to fix it. Do y'all know that after 28 days, the rehab fairy does not wave a magic wand and say, "You're cured"? I was shocked because 2 days after I got out of rehab, I used again. The rehab fairy did not wave a magic wand and say, "Abracadabra." That was the first of 26 different treatment programs that I did between detox, inpatient, outpatient, partial hospitalization, psych wards, 26, and jail, all told. And I'm gonna be honest, the next several years of my life are a bit of a blur. The only way I can track is by major events, such as I'll move to upstate New York. That will fix everything if I just get out of Richmond. I forgot something though, y'all. I packed me with my stuff. I took me with me to New York. I thought where I was the problem. Nobody had told me I was the problem, and I brought me with me. It took me 3 weeks, 2 hours, and an extra $20 for me to show up. Patrick was born addicted to heroin. The way I track the rest of the next 15 or so years, 10 or so years, is through my almost 30-page criminal record. Occasionally, things pop up on Facebook. I'm like, I didn't even know I went to jail this time. All told, I did about 3.5 years on the installment plan. August of 2014, I was arrested in Henrico. It took them about a year of legal processes to get me into the courtroom to sentence me. I came in with 7 letters of recommendation, including from 2 POs. The judge looked at me in the face. He said, "I don't care what you're doing. I care what you did. 10 years. This was my nightmare. I was so afraid I was going to pass out in the courtroom. I was so afraid I was going to pass out in the courtroom that I missed the next thing the judge said, which was 8 years, 8 months suspended. But now I had a math problem to solve. You ever tried to solve a math problem when you're in a panic? When someone throws 10 years at you, you try to do some quick subtraction. I'm like, wait, what? How long is that? That still seems like a really long time. Wait a minute. 8 years, 8 months, 12 minus. I'm doing calculus in the courtroom while they're putting my hands behind my back. And I'm like, whoa, hey. How long is that? 16 months. I said, damn, that sounds like a year and a half almost. By the time they got done with my probation violations, it was 19 months. I did probably about a month here at West. I saw all the pods. They kept moving me around. I was like, you know what? I got to get out of here. Is there anywhere better to go? Like, can DOC come get me already? I heard about this magical place called East. I said, sign me up. It's got to be better. I went to East. I did the RISE program. I completed the RISE program. I got kicked out of the RISE program. Don't use the washer and dryer there for your uniform. That's all I'm saying. I met some really cool people at East. When I got kicked out, they moved me over to B-side. And I don't like to be bored. I am a moving, always going, always thinking kind of person. And one day I was sitting there, I'd always like to write. And I noticed something and I started writing and I got to the end of that and I was like, damn, I sound like a bitch. I should probably explain myself. And I wrote a little bit more. And one of my friends came up and said, what are you doing? I said, I'm writing. What are you writing? She read it. She goes, that's really good. And I was like, that's 2 chapters. And I spent the rest of my time on B-side writing a book which got published in 2021. It's called State Blues, incidentally. You know, and I got out, and, you know, over the 11 months before I went in, the year and a half I was there, and the almost year after I got out, I did pretty good. I thought I was in recovery. I wasn't doing heroin, I wasn't smoking crack, I wasn't doing all that other stuff, but I didn't believe something that they told me. Alcohol is a drug. Maybe it's a drug for y'all, but I'm special. I'm different. Alcohol's not a drug. Alcohol's not my problem. No, it's just what I was using to treat my problem, which was still me. And alcohol wasn't a problem until it was. By the time I finally picked up heroin again, I was drinking a pint of rum for breakfast. That was just how I started my day. You know, it took me about 17 years to find recovery the first time. It took me a year and a half to find it the second time around because things got that bad that fast. See, you've heard my mess. Where's the message? August 2018. My dealer said, girl, be careful. Dude told me this stuff is strong. And I said, I'll be the judge of that. But on a cautionary note, I'll take it home so I don't drive. And I took it home and I opened it up and it looked a little different. I did a little, it tastes a little weird. And I waited a few minutes and I'm like, but I don't feel nothing. So naturally, I did the whole rest of the bag. Which is the point I stopped remembering most of everything because my 11-year-old son found me dead on the bathroom floor. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember a lot over those 24 to 48 hours, but one thing cut through that fentanyl fog, and that was my 11-year-old looking at the EMT in tears saying, is my mommy going to be all right? And the EMT didn't know how to answer. I swore I would never touch heroin again. I had this image. Y'all, I didn't care. I didn't care if I lived or died. In fact, let's be real, I had the welcome mat rolled out. This was my 6th opiate overdose. Incidentally, did you know you can overdose on crack? You can, I know, because I have 2 heart attacks, crack-induced. For a grand total of 8 overdoses. My children tell me all the time, Mom, you're a cat, but you are on your last life. Behave. September 2018. I went on a 4-day bender. I did not use heroin, but I used every other damn thing. At the end of that, I was at a gas station 20 miles from my house, which I knew, but I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what day it was. I wasn't entirely sure about the year, and I wasn't real clear on who I was. This is what we call a drug-induced psychosis. I spent the next 2 weeks at Poplar Springs Behavioral Hospital, trying to get stabilized. And I experienced symptoms from that for the next year and a half. You would think any one of these things would be enough, but not me. I'm special. October 30th, 2018, I got jumped, beat up, and mugged. Which is why when I got arrested on October the 31st, Halloween, I have a black eye in my picture in Hanover. An important thing happened that Halloween because I called my knight in shining armor Daddy. Daddy. He said, I know. I'm good friends with the GTO lady. What do you want? I said, can you come get me? I need bail. He said, eventually. I said, what you mean eventually? What's this eventually business? No. I'm a princess. Drop everything right now and come rescue me. And he said, it's Halloween and you're in jail. Somebody gonna have to take your kids trick-or-treating. And buy them costumes, which you didn't do, I noticed. I imagine after that I'll be quite tired. And I got stuff to do tomorrow. I'll get there when I can. Thank God for daddies who love you enough to tell you the truth about how selfish you're being rather than drop everything and come rescue you. Because he let me sit there for a few days before he finally bailed me out. He did come and get me, but it made me realize my parents are supposed to be in their retirement. Instead, they're raising my children. April 3rd, 2019, I was on another couple-day bender because I just don't learn. And my dealer didn't have enough heroin for the money I had paid and the services I had provided. He said, but I do have a bag of hair on. And I thought, well, that's good. That'll bring me down so I can make it home. I did not OD. Thank God I didn't OD. But on my 30-minute drive home, I had one image lingering in my head, and it was of my two beautiful young boys in little black suits standing in front of my coffin. And that was all I could think about. I didn't care if I lived or died, but I did care if I hurt the two people in the world who I loved the most. I did care that my parents were carrying my weight at 39 years old. And I thought about this image in my head on that 30-minute drive home, and I reached a conclusion. I don't know what to do. I've been trying to beat this, and clearly my way is not working. Some people will tell you they came into this program or recovery on their knees. I mean it literally, because I got out of my car, I went to my back porch, and I hit my knees, and I said, God, I can't do this anymore, and I don't know what to do. Clearly, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to stop this. This is bigger than I am. I give up. You're going to have to take this up off me, God, because it's not working for me. That night, I went back to NA for the first time in years. I had to take my oldest son, Wesley, with me. My parents wouldn't let me leave the house alone. They gave him a cell phone and said, if she goes anywhere other than the meeting, you call us or the police. And I went to that meeting, And I sat the entire time, and of course, the back of the room, as far back as I could get, in tears. But I did share, because I knew I needed some help. And I remember exactly what I shared, and I'll tell you why I remember it. Because when I left that meeting and I got home, I knew I would have to remind myself of the promise I made. And I wrote it down, and it lived on my headboard of my bed for 2 years. I said, my name is Mandie, and I am broken. I am shattered, and I'm going to die. At this moment, I will do whatever you tell me to do. If it means I don't ever have to go back out there and live like that again, please don't let me die. If you tell me to walk on broken glass, I will take off my shoes right now. Please don't let me die. Luckily, ain't nobody in that meeting go, we got a bunch of broken bottles in the back. Go ahead and take off your shoes. We got you. Because that's not what it took. They said, shut your mouth, open your ears. There's a reason God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You're supposed to listen more than you talk. They directed me to page 91 of the basic text, which says you don't have to understand this program in order to follow it. Sometimes you just got to follow direction. When they talk about willingness and open-mindedness, that's what they're talking about. You were willing to do it for drugs. Are you willing to do it for your recovery? Because I know a lot of you don't like being told what to do. You don't like the deputies bossing you around. But I'll tell you what, if my dealer told me to sit at a street corner for 2 hours till he got there, I sat my ass right there. I'll tell you what, had he told me I needed to stand on my head naked and hum the Star Spangled Banner backwards, I'd have stripped off and started practicing. I'd have learned to be a gymnast. And yet all of a sudden I got in jail and I got real, don't tell me what to do. June 26th. I was very lucky, y'all. I'm not even going to lie. This is my higher power. I got a plea deal because I had like 5 to 8 years hanging over my head between new charges and suspended time. I got a plea deal for 6 months, and I reported to Pamunkey Regional Jail. And I'm in a program, or I'm in general population, and I meet this wonderful girl named Cassidy, who's still my best friend to this day. And Cassidy says, I'm going to sign up for the McShin Recovery Pod. And I'm like, bitch, miss me with that. Are you kidding me? I have 6 months. I want to sleep and play spades and make swolls, okay? I am tired of programs. I've done them all. I am so tired of some teenager who's read some stuff to be like, and how do you feel? You want to talk about your mother? Freud would say, bitch, shut up. What can you tell me about my problem and how to fix it? I am in a hole. Do you have a shovel? Can you tell me how to climb out? Freud's not going to help me with that. I was angry. No, I don't want another therapist to tell me they think they know what's wrong with me. And Cassidy said, it's not like that. These people are different. They're really cool. And they bring you donuts. And I said, donuts? Did you say donuts? Where do I sign up? They did bring donuts. They brought in a lot of donuts. I ate more donuts on that day than I've ever eaten in my life. And this little dude with a really weird name came in. And I was waiting for, the shtick, the therapist crap. And he hit me with this. He pulled out the NA Way of Life, which is a big, thick book. And he said, how many of y'all using this for a pillow? And my jaw dropped. Because at that moment, upstairs in my cell, it was wrapped in my sweatshirt. I had been using it as a pillow. And I was like, how did he know? When he told us he had been locked up in that jail 64 times, had opened that jail when they first built it. And I knew he had been where I had been. But he didn't look like me. He looked like he had his act together. He looked like he might actually be something like happy and at peace. As did the other people who came in. And I thought, I want what they have. I want that. Maybe if I listen, they'll tell me how to get it. And then Cricket hit me with this. Y'all know Cricket, right? He's spoken here. I'm sure he has. Cricket hit me with this. Go ahead, use the NA Way of Life to sleep on. I know they don't give you pillows. He said, but maybe once in a while, crack it open and read that bitch. And when they left, that's exactly what I did. I went up to my cell and I started reading, and I read it cover to cover. Remember, I don't like to be bored. December 1st, 2019, I walked out of Pamunkey Regional, and I decided I needed to do something different. I had to put my life together. I had 2 goals. The first goal was probably actually 2 goals combined, but I didn't know the difference at the time. I was like, I'd like to stay clean and not go back to jail. Like, that would be great. My second goal was, I'd like to hold down a job, that I show up to for longer than 30 seconds. I'd like something I could put on a resume that might help me get like a job, a real job. So after Christmas, Ted, y'all remember Ted? He and I are still friends. And he just left a job at Advance Auto. He said they need help. I said, Advance Auto? I don't know nothing about no cars. Y'all, I used to be a teacher for a brief period of time. I'm not gonna lie, I had a little chip on my shoulder about that. I was like, you mean you want me to go with a college degree to deliver auto parts? Part-time. But then I thought about some of the stuff I did for drugs, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to swallow my pride on this one. I'll be all right. And I went, and I said, I'm going to show up. And I did it like meetings. I got there early. I stayed late. I paid attention. I learned a lot about cars. I'm really into cars now, by the way. And after a few months, my boss was like, hey, you're doing okay. You want to work more hours? And I was like, I like money. I have fines to pay. I have bills. Ain't no rest for the wicked. I took some more hours. After about a year, I was like, wow, I'm working full time. I'm going to meetings. I've always wanted to go back to school. But I didn't want to jump in too hard, so I took 1 class at the local community college. 1 class. After that semester, my grade in that class was a 99.8. And I thought, well, I think I did okay. So the next semester, I took 2 classes. My scores were a 100 and a 97. And then I heard about this thing called PRS training, Peer Recovery Specialist. And I was like, why not? I have some free time. I don't like to be bored. It was in the middle of COVID. I did it on Zoom. I could do it from my dining room table. And at the end of 72 hours of training, it took about a month and a half in the evenings, they said, you got to go get internship hours, 500 hours to become certified. And there was a whole conversation. People freaked out in the class. Where do I go to do that? I didn't even take part in that conversation. I knew exactly where to go. I went to McShin. And I said, can I intern? And they said, sure, come on. They gave me a form to sign, fill out my hours. At one point, my supervisor there, Matt Connor, said to me, we ain't hired you yet. You're always here. You're here more often than the people we pay. Because I came in hungry. See, you know what they taught me in the program? It works if you work it. I knew at this point no magical fairy was going to come and abracadabra life away, or me for that matter. And one day, I was sitting in one of the offices, and who should walk by but Cricket? And I was like, oh my God, do you remember me? I was in your monkey program, and I'm better now, and I'm clean. I want to do what you do. I'm sure he was a little overwhelmed. He was like, yeah, no, okay, I'll get you an application. What he didn't know is that about 10 years ago, I had gotten in, surprise, some legal trouble again. It was not my first time. And my PO and my lawyer had this little conversation. Maybe if we get her into treatment, it'll help. So they reached out to my local community services board, who came back with this response. We have treated Ms. Brando previously to seemingly no avail. We'd prefer to divert resources to somebody we feel we could actually help. Ms. Brando is a lost cause. Well, there it is. There's my label. Now, I like to think there's a little addiction devil that sits on my shoulder and a little recovery angel over here, right? I don't know, maybe I've watched Animal House too many times. But I'll tell you what, that little addiction devil heard lost cause. He said, you think I'm a lost cause? Hold my beer. Let me show you what a lost cause is. I didn't have a recovery angel on my shoulder at the moment. What I had was whatever that was left over of me when you took away the drugs and alcohol buried somewhere deep inside like a grave, and she rolled over and she howled. She said, I'm not a lost cause. Someday I'm going to come back and beat this, and when I do, I'm going to tell the whole world there ain't no such thing as a lost cause, because if I can do it, anyone can do it. So when I saw Cricket, I meant what I said. I had found my calling. I want to do what you do. I want to go into jails and let them know face to face. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I can't wave a magical recovery wand over you. And to be honest, even if I could, I wouldn't. There's value in the work. Because I had support along the way, but nobody could take my recovery away from me, because I did that one day at a time. And honestly, sometimes not even one day at a time, an hour at a time. You have to get connected. I know they've told you people, places, and things, people, places, and things, people, places, and things ad nauseum. When you take away all the people, places, and things, what the hell do you have? You have a vacuum. You better fill it with something. But I'll tell you what, if you fill it with new people and new places, you'll get some better things. We call those the gifts of recovery, y'all. And there are some nice gifts. I just bought a brand new Bronco Sport. That's a nice gift of recovery. With the raise I just got at work. Because you see, once I worked in the jails for a little while as a volunteer, I don't come here for the money they pay me. I did it for free. But after about 3 months, they hired me. And a few months after that, they gave me a promotion. I had a dream. Yeah, I got a bucket list, like a list of stuff you'd like to do before you die. I always wanted to go to England. I always wanted to see my favorite band in concert, Coldplay. So last month, I flew to England with my children to go see Coldplay. Those are some nice gifts. This hair ain't cheap. Got to be extra. And I mean, if that's what it is for you, man, go get that. But let me tell you about some other gifts. My parents are elderly. They have some health problems, and I get the privilege to help take care of them after they took care of me far past 18. My children today, every night I say to them, I love you. You get a good night's sleep, you have sweet dreams, and they say it with me. And I'll see you in the morning. And the reason why is because now they know they will see me in the morning. They don't have to guess or ask someone, where's mommy? That's a gift. I don't see my children on a tablet or through plate glass. I put my arms around them and hug them in person today. My car broke down. My father, who used to lock up his car keys and wallet when I was in the house, just left his keys on the counter for me for his brand new truck and said, here, take this. Just don't smoke in it. He trusts me today. That's a gift. I wake up in the morning and my first thought isn't, what the hell do I have left over on the bedside table to get me out of bed? My first thought, thank you, God, I'm awake. Please don't let me screw today up too bad. I'm going to let you take care of most of that. And then I get to go to a job that I love. Can you imagine? I'm telling you what, I couldn't. Because for a long time, I used to think about going to work like, should I kill myself or go to work? Today, I'm excited about life, even on the boring days. Today, I have true friends that I can trust with both my life and my wallet. October 7th, 2021, Ted's wife called me. I was her maid of honor. I'm godmother to their 2 small children. Ted went into cardiac arrest. We don't know if he's going to make it. He had been my best friend for 20 years. He had gotten clean. It was on methadone, but he had gotten clean. An hour and a half later, I'm at work, and I got the phone call. He did not make it. And I went out to the car, and I thought, I don't like how this feels. This hurts too bad. I don't want to feel this. I know exactly how to not feel. It's the little recovery or addiction devil on my shoulder. You know how to not feel this. Girl, you on East 9 Mile Road. You know where to go. But at this point, because I had been taking them suggestions and following a program of recovery every day, I had a little recovery angel on my shoulder who said, that'd be a lousy way to honor his memory. He was really proud of you for getting clean. He not here. You're going to have to take care of them babies and that wife. You got to help your friends. Everybody would be so disappointed. What would your kids think? Nah. You're going to have to feel this. And it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's okay. You can be uncomfortable today because that's when we grow. That's when the real change happens. When we're comfortable, we ain't got no need to change, do we? Everything's just coasting along. The lazy river. I prefer roller coasters. You got uphills and downhills, and that's okay. Sometimes life throws you for a loop. I have yet to find something I found it necessary to use behind because let's be real, I don't have a single problem in my life that using drugs or alcohol is going to make better. The 2 tricks I have found to recovery today are I put my addiction first. I damn well better put my recovery first today because if I don't put my recovery first, I know my addiction will gladly take its place. That doesn't mean I go to 7 meetings every week. It does mean I do something for my recovery every day. I start off my day talking to someone in recovery, or that's how it ends. I always check in with someone. I might go to a meeting. I might read the Just for Today. I do something. I put my recovery first. Ain't nobody gonna steal my joy or my recovery today. The second thing is connection. I was isolated, and almost all of you nodded your heads and said you had felt that way. I'll bet each and every single one of you has some form of trauma or isolation or something in your past that has made it difficult for you to connect. We connect with drugs and alcohol instead of each other. Y'all know about Rat Park? See, they used to do experiments where they put a rat in a cage and they gave it 2 bottles of water, regular bottle of water, drug bottle of water. They wanted to know it wasn't drug sensitive, so they either put morphine in it, medically pure heroin, or cocaine. Every single time the rats drank the drugged water exclusively, overdosed, and died. Every single time. In the 70s, a man named Bruce Alexander came along and he looked at this experiment and he goes, yeah, but the rat's in there by himself. He ain't got nothing to do but use drugs. So he built Rat Park. And he put lots of tunnels, lots of little balls for them to play with, lots of cheese for them to eat. We do gain weight in recovery. And most importantly, lots of other rats. And then he put in both bottles of water. The rats tried the drug water. We're dumb like that. We try stuff. But not a single rat drank it exclusively, and not a single rat died. It is not about your drug. It's about your cage. And I don't mean being in jail. I'm talking about your spiritual cage, because every time I walked out of jail, I locked myself back up in prison. Dealers were my deputies. Drugs were my chains. My lifestyle was my punishment. The goal here is freedom, and I'm not talking physical freedom. Spiritual freedom. And for that, you've got to learn to connect. I'm going to leave y'all with this. I'm known as the Sunflower Lady. My last car was bright yellow, decked out in sunflowers. I still got sunflowers all over the place. Occasionally, I come to work dressed as a whole sunflower. I got the shoes, the earrings, the shirts, all of it. And people ask me, what's with the sunflowers, Mandie? And if you look on Amazon to buy a sunflower product, I know because I have all of them, most of them say something inspirational like, stand tall, find the light, which is true enough. Sunflowers are really tall, and they follow the sun across the sky. That's why we call them sunflowers. What most of you don't know, though, is what sunflowers do when it's overcast. They face each other. That's where they get their energy from. I promise you, if we acted like sunflowers, we wouldn't have to worry about addiction anymore. If we stood tall, found the light, but when times got dark, turned towards each other, we'd never have to worry about not feeling connected. Thanks, y'all. Too long?
RSW with a front royal, right?
Yeah.
Up
there now.
So we making her drive up there late tonight. I said, well, before you go back into jail in front royal and give it to them, give it local down there. We need you. We ran kind of long. I wanted once again, always thank the sheriff for letting us come up in here. You know, I always remind you guys, I mean, just don't every jail let people do this. They let us bring the connection in, bring the message in, you know. And I know you had to get something out of Mandie tonight. There's no way you couldn't, you know what I mean? The community is full of Mandies and Marshalls and Johns, and, you know, there's plenty of connection out there. Chase your connection to recovery like you did your drugs. You can't fail. Closing words, thoughts?
Yeah. The word that I heard Mandie continuously use is like she's been here before. She was like, I don't like to be bored. You know what I'm saying? I don't like to be bored. And that's what we hear from one jail to the other. I don't like to be bored. You know what I mean? She chose to read, which resonated with me because I chose to do the same thing. And I've met several people that chose to do the same thing while they were incarcerated. They chose to read, you know. Once we leave here and we go on the street, what do we do when we're bored? And she said too, connect. Connect to somebody, you know? Connect. When she said that, I automatically thought about Max Shan.
You know, I've never been bored a day in my recovery. It just doesn't happen.
No.
If you're chasing your recovery, you cannot be bored.
No.
I wish I could be bored and do nothing. It just doesn't work for me.
No.
And man, you see where I live and who I live with, you wouldn't be bored over there either. So I'll give you a good representation. You ain't allowed to be bored at my house, man. We ain't putting up with that today, but we got stuff for you to do. We got this, we got that.
Yeah, that's right. That's
All
right.
good though, healthy stuff.
Yeah.
Come visit, you'll put you to work.
That's right.
Yeah,
Well, y'all been great. We're glad we got to come 2 weeks in a row. Thank the sheriff for letting us keep coming up in here. I'll be gone next Tuesday. I'll be in Arkansas.
All right, John will be going.
Riding around,
You got
checking
it.
out sober houses for the community down there, doing God's work in Arkansas. But I know y'all gonna do a good job out at East
got
next week.
Yeah.
And y'all been great. Thank you.
Cheers, Kyle.
We already got a speaker line.